Mel Stride was so disingenuous when he said silly things like...
Not Mel Stride.
No, yeah, it worked. Do you remember the big society that David Cameron had?
Wash your mouth out, B. Wash your mouth out. I think a few people would quite like you to be in charge, as opposed to perhaps Liz Kendall. I don't know if she's up for a job swap.
But this will be watered down over time.
The art of the deal, B.
Now let's listen to this amazing LBC caller who knows of what she speaks. And her name is B, and she's a welfare officer and has been for over 20 years from Bedford. And she called James O'Brien on Wednesday the 19th of March 2025 about the recent PIP reforms or welfare reforms from the Labour government. And what she had to say about this was quite fascinating.
It's actually much more of a complex issue than a lot of journalists would like to make.
Yes.
So, yes, there are some issues with PIP. If I can just touch on that first.
Take all the time you want. You work in the sector, I think.
I do indeed, right. Yeah. I've been a welfare advisor for 25 years.
Perfect. Fill your boots.
Lovely. So one of the areas that hasn't actually been discussed yet is if you remove personal independence payments, daily living allowance for disabled people, the knock-on effect is on carers. You cannot get carers allowance without the person you care for getting that benefit. So on top of the disabled person losing the money that they use to buy services, they then possibly also lose their family or friend carer who then has to say, sorry, need to go to work because I've lost my money. So there's that effect that nobody's talked about as well.
Yeah.
And yes, the 4-point thing, just to clarify, whether you need an aid or whether you need the help of a person, you only get 2 points. There's very specific criteria for getting the 4 points, and it is a very high bar. So they're absolutely right. It is going to affect... I think the Resolution Foundation is probably about spot on. It's probably closer to the 1 million mark than the 800,000 mark.
And by effect, what do we really mean?
Losing their daily living allowance.
And that means...
losing their carers possibly as well.
So people are going to be terrified this morning. People are going to be really frightened.
Yeah, I mean, and Mel Stride was so disingenuous when he said silly things like...
Not Mel Stride.
No, yeah. But, the idea that disabled people should... if you need an aid, NHS gives you the aid and then off you go. Aids have a shelf life of a year if you're lucky because of the stresses that are put on them. So they need to be replenished and upgraded. Plus, is that really right to say to a disabled person, this is the type of aid you have to use because that's what's provided by the NHS? You can't go off and find the one that's suitable for your height, for your weight, for your body shape. That's just sort of... It's making disabled people into children. It's a horrible way of looking at things.
And yet, working within the system, you probably recognise that some improvements are required.
Absolutely. And
so what would you do if I put you in charge and charged you with saving money? Or does it automatically become morally indefensible once we actually start trying to save money because we should simply be spending more on looking after society's more vulnerable people?
There is an argument that if you fix the fundamentals, then this will naturally come down. So there are a few things here. One is children who have disabilities in schools are not getting the SEND support they need, which means that they come out as adults without the right skills to be able to transition into adult life, working life, and so on. So that's one area. Then you've got a broken health and social care system, which means that there are people languishing, waiting for support from health and social care that would then help them transition into perhaps working a little, a lot, or maybe not at all. But they could also be doing volunteering work. Do you remember the big society that David Cameron had?
Wash your mouth out, B. Wash your mouth out.
But you couldn't build that without the support structures in place. Right. And that's my argument. You cannot do this without that. You need to do them hand in hand, and it will naturally bring down the number of people that need to claim this support.
So is there any wait and see element to what you're telling me? Is there any...
A little bit. So... for example, when they got rid of tax credits and changed into universal credit, one massive flaw that we were screaming from the rooftops is you've not got a disabled element in there, which means that disabled workers don't have that additional support that they need to get in and stay in work. For example, if you were a disabled worker, you could probably work maybe 20 hours a week, but beyond that, it's going to completely wipe you out. You couldn't do it. So tax credits could top you up, which means that you could live a dignified life.
Right.
Universal credit is binary. You're either sick or you're not.
Yeah.
Which means that you have to say, I'm too sick to work, to then be able to get the support to go and work.
This is what we were touching on, and the OBR and the IFS have said that this is a likely factor driving people onto incapacity benefits.
Yes, and the other problem is that we actually have disability employment advisors in every job centre, and they are fantastic. Unfortunately, nobody gets referred to them.
Why not?
Because at the front line, the job coaches are overwhelmed with cases. They haven't got the time
and that involves
to
more
sift
money.
through. Yes, they need to spend more time with every individual to work out what is right for them. And there are lots of people with the support of disability employment advisors. They can then go on to work. And that is including the people that are in the too sick to work category. That's the point here. You don't have to not be too sick to work to be able to work as well.
I think a few people would quite like you to be in charge, as opposed to perhaps Liz Kendall. I don't know if she's up for a job swap. I've got one quick question. I'm all over the place on my junctions today, and I have to be conscious of Keith's mental equilibrium as well as my physical safety. So, I mean, what's the worst? When will we know if things are really bad? If things have gone really bad?
Let's wait for the green paper because, of course, there's going to be consultations. Yeah. In the consultations, all of the disability charities and the think tanks and so on will put their input. And I suspect, much like the ridiculous paper that the Tories brought out last year, some of this will be watered down over time.
The art of the deal, B.
Indeed.
The art of the deal.
Now, that's an interesting part about the green paper that I hadn't recently considered, because as someone who will probably lose my living allowance from my PIP, as somebody I need help in washing and dressing myself, so I do know that I will lose it, and chances are I will probably lose my carer as well if these reforms go through, so won't be good news for me. I also found what she said about Mel Stride being disingenuous interesting as well. Exactly, James. Mel Stride being disingenuous? Surely not. I also found what she had to say about disability employment advisors interested as well. Have you used one of these? If you have, let me know down below what you thought of them. Also, what she had to say at the end, saying, that chances are most of these ideas in the green paper will be watered down once charities have their input into it. I found that interesting as well. And I do hope B's right on that, because there's a lot of frightened people out there who don't deserve this and deserve better than what they've been getting so far. But what do you guys think? Do you think that this green paper will be watered down and be much ado about nothing in the end? And if it is, the trouble is that this government did consider these reforms, and people will not forget, will they? Or do you think that this government will just carry on with these reforms of personal independent payments regardless? Well, if you do, let me know down below, and I shall just bid you farewell and take care, my friends.